Welcome to the Spectators Podcast. Here are your hosts, Corey and Jeff.
All right, so now that we're done with the NHL side of things, and hockey as well, because we talked about the World Cup, we'll head into the professional wrestling side, and I think we're heading into a very, very interesting week in professional wrestling, because we have Full Gear coming up next weekend, which I think is going to be a really good pay-per-view, and there's some excitement in AEW, which is really nice to see, because we've it's been like 2 weeks since we've had some backstage challenges, and of course WWE is heading into Survivor Series War Games, which is a new pay-per-view style up on the main roster. So it's going to be a really cool and interesting week. So where do you feel like going with our professional wrestling talk?
I think we can start with AEW. I think we haven't talked about AEW for a while. Usually it kind of dies down until we have another pay-per-view, which we know they have a lot less of pay-per-views in a year, which I kind of think makes it a little bit 6, I think, which makes it a little bit more exciting, to be honest, because you got more time to build up story. It was only a couple of weeks ago, I think we were talking, texting each other saying, hey, AEW doesn't have a lot on the card yet, and all of a sudden now they have a pretty decent card stacked up right now.
I've got 8 matches.
8 matches. They've got some good title matches in there, and they have some new stories building as we speak. So, I'm excited because we finally get to see MJF get a title shot, which is what he has been waiting for a long time, what he's been complaining about for a long time. I think he's well deserving. I think the guy is incredible on the mic. I think he's talented in the ring. I'm just really curious to see how they play this out. What I'm hearing, rumor-wise, is that not that MJF at all needs to have a mouthpiece or anything like that, but they're saying that William Regal is going to turn on Jon Moxley in some way or another, and will join MJF, and the Blackpool Combat Club will kind of come to an end, which totally makes sense because I don't know if you've been paying attention, but seeing it over the last 4 weeks or so, Wheeler Yuta has been fighting with Mox and Bryan Danielson backstage, complaining about this, complaining about that. There just has not been chemistry there. Mox isn't necessarily getting along with everybody. Bryan Danielson's just kind of off on a tangent, doing his own thing, and he's become almost like a heel now. So I don't know, it's weird. So that dysfunction in that group is showing. They're breaking apart, and I think it does make sense that hey, William Regal, let's get him to kind of manage MJF. And MJF needs to turn face, but he needs to be that interesting face, right? He's not a pure face, right? You can't think of him like a Cody Rhodes type of face or anything like that. He still has that. He still has to have his character behind him, but he is definitely showing signs of turning face. A couple of weeks ago when he was attacked by the Firm and everything, that was a really good sign of him turning face. But I mean, other than that, there's a big women's championship match on the card. I think there's a trios title or a tag title. No, there's a tag title match on the card, right? So that's the Acclaimed and Swerve in Our Glory or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be another really good match because that was a fantastic match before the last time that they competed against each other. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the card. I probably won't watch it live. I'll just catch up on highlights or anything, but I think I'm most looking forward to seeing how this pans out with MJF. Probably the most, just like WWE, I think the AEW, they've held that title on Mox for a while. Prior to CM Punk, Adam Page, and all that, Mox had been champion. He's kind of gone back and forth between Mox and others. And, I feel like they just need a little twist. Like, they don't need to have Mox hold on to it for 803 days. like
Roman, yeah.
Like Roman, right? And like we were saying months ago, Mox was supposed to take some time off. and he didn't end up doing that because of the whole debacle with CM Punk. He ended up coming back, and he deserves that time off. So I think put a new champion in place. What I'm really liking is Samoa Joe just turned on MJ. Sorry, not MJ. Wardlow. And that I didn't see that coming. So I think that was quite interesting. So again, there's some fresh things, right? Like I think with AEW, some things that are happening are things that we don't see coming, which always leads for a little more entertaining card than oh yeah, we're kind of seeing it coming. We know how it's kind of been played out. Yeah, so I mean it's going to be a good card, and then after that, I think Survivor Series is the following weekend after. And it is.
Yeah, you're right. Holy moly, you're right.
Well, which I think is great because I don't know if we want to see 2 pay-per-views back to back again. We have some breathing room to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But what's your perspective on Full Gear here? Like what do you think might happen, and what are you looking most forward to?
I am looking forward to MJF finally having the belt. Like I think everybody and their dog wants him to be the champion, right? Like seriously, like I think it's he was gone for a while. Everyone kind of missed him. There was this weird pipe bomb thing. Not weird, but it was a pipe bomb, right? And I think there was some legitimacy to. There's
definitely some realcy to it, yeah.
Right. And I think what's this called? It's called Full Gear.
Full Gear.
Sorry, there's too many WWE names in my head right now. I think Full Gear needs to be successful. It needs to be a card that doesn't go down with any drama. And I think they can do that if they play it right. I think
they have a bigger chance of doing that without Punk in the room.
Right, and I think the Elite will probably come back too.
Right.
They keep teasing it, right, which will be nice. Although there's a lot of controversy around all that. Tony Khan may have just been like, "Well, I like the Elite. I'm just gonna blame Punk and kick him out." Right? I mean, nobody in that brawl, it seems, was in the right. No. So, if it's Punk that needs to be kicked out, whatever. It's professional wrestling, right? Like this stuff happens, right? So,
speaking of Punk,
yeah.
I don't know if you heard, but he actually is back in the MMA world. He
commentating.
He was doing some commentary for a smaller MMA group. I thought it was interesting. He looked happy, but something for him to do, and he still has a really wide following. Like he does. He has a lot of people who really respect his wrestling career
in WWE. With Vince gone, how that would work. I'm starting to think about it more. I keep, people keep theorizing, because Steve Austin has said he wants to wrestle again. That do you do a Punk versus Austin at WrestleMania, and sort of maybe don't have Punk there all the time. Like make him a main event, make him like a Logan Paul. I think I know it's a crappy comparison.
An attraction.
Yeah, exactly right. I think you can do that. He has the name behind him, and I know we've totally gotten off of Full Gear here, but I think you should do that. Like that way, Punk's not there all the time, and still AEW brought him in because Tony Khan admitted it. They brought him in for the pull of the fans, right? And the fans still really like him. He's getting older. He's had a pretty serious injury, so I can imagine maybe he's even himself kind of thinking maybe I shouldn't be doing this full time, right? Because he won the championship, hurt his ankle.
Something like that, yeah.
And then came back, won it again, and tore his pec, right?
Yeah.
Like, which is a pretty serious injury, right? And
I think it might be healthier for his mind too. Like, yeah, he's what, 40? He's got to be close to 45 now.
Locker room too, right? Because like it's been made pretty clear that Punk, wasn't the most biggest ray of sunshine in the room.
Apparently, in the beginning, he was super happy to be back, and I think he still has. I think that shows he still has a passion for wrestling.
I think it's just you need to be smart how you book him.
If he's there in the locker room to, as he thinks, lead. I don't think it's fitting with the younger talent. When you have him there as an attraction, like your perspective, I think. Why not? Like he is definitely an attraction of a name. A lot of fans will be happy to see him fight.
I think with the WWE, you'd be very clear with him what the boundaries are.
For sure.
Right? You are talent. Give us your input, but for the most part, this is your role, right? I think that's where it sounds like that's kind of where it's getting mixed up with AEW is that's, I mean, EVPs were talent, right?
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's ever happened in the WWE. I know WWE has its own issues with leadership structure. But anyways, back to Full Gear.
Back to Full Gear.
It looks like a really good card, and my biggest worry and concern is that don't add any more matches. Like they've got 8 right now. That's a good size, right? Don't go any further, right? Because like all that was 14 matches, I think, right? It was a long card.
And I think they try to do this because they don't have as many pay-per-views, so they try to get they try to milk as much out of it.
Have so much talent, and talent complains all the time about not getting screen time,
Yeah.
which is fair. But I think you just got to be careful because if you just keep rolling out, because I can see speculation here of a Wardlow match, of the trios championships getting added in, or the FTW championship, or the All Atlantic championship. Right? They've got a few belts that are like, if it's just these 8 cards, aren't even going to be on the card. And interestingly enough, you've taken like the TNT championship is an AEW championship, yet you have the ROH championship on there, right? Which is it's owned by Tony Khan, but it's not an AEW championship, right? They're trying to boost ROH so they can get a TV deal, right? So like AEW has some interesting issues or challenges with it, right? So you've got Rampage coming up this week, right? And I just hope they don't add one more, but don't add too many.
Don't
right?
go over it. Don't over.
Like I think 6 to 8. Like I think H has shown that you can do 6, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Clash at the Castle was fantastic. You only had 6 matches, and that was like how can you only have 6? Like it's a big PPV.
Crown Jewel
right?
was only 6 too, and I mean, I
Oh, that was 8, but
it was 8. Okay, yeah.
Crown Jewels, as we've explained, is a bit of an asterisk.
Yeah.
Extreme Rules was 6 too.
Extreme Rules was 6.
And I think War Games will also be 6. Well, I mean, not to you have 2 War Games.
It has to be because you have 2 War Games matches, which are probably going to be almost an hour each, right?
Anyways, like I'm looking forward. I think the women's match is going to be really good. I know Hayter's like to my knowledge is like up and coming and look is really exciting. Yeah. Of course, Tony Storm's really good, right? We're all waiting to hear how Thunder Rosa is doing. It doesn't sound like she's anywhere close.
Anytime soon, yeah.
So hopefully she's doing well.
I think Hayter pulls the belt off Tony Storm just because it seems like AEW has been putting. It's hard because Tony Storm's been doing such a good job with like just holding that title and everything, but I think the fans getting a little bored with her. She's not getting as much of a pop out there, and I think Jamie Hayter, from what it looks like, is they're really giving her a big push, especially with Britt Baker kind of like mentoring her and like being part of that team.
She's fighting Saraya, which will be I think everyone's really excited to see Saraya back or Paige.
First time in 5 years.
Yeah. And she was happy to be medically cleared. First person she called was Sasha Banks. That was kind of cool to hear. So that I'm excited to see that. I'm curious if Jade Cargill's going to lose her title because at some point she's got to lose.
She's got to lose at some point.
Is Nyla Rose the person? I'm not as much into AEW as I am WWE. So folks, let us know who you think is going to win that match. But you would think with the dominance of Jade Cargill, she actually would be going for the top belt, right?
I figure if as soon as she loses that title, whether it's right now or in the future, as soon as that title's pulled off her, she's the next in line for her. You have to imagine.
You would think so, right? Like, look at her physique. She looks like a top card competitor, but she's I'm assuming the TBS Championship's considered a mid card.
Yeah, exactly. Right? I think she's been putting in work, and I think it's fantastic that she's really proved herself. Like I think she can go to that she can easily, from the fans' perspective, she's great on the mic. She's fantastic on the mic. She's great athleticism. I think it's really believable with her character that hey, we want to transition her to the main women's heavyweight title. Done. I have no question. If every wrestler could go through these phases, it would be fantastic because it becomes really believable. Obviously, that doesn't happen all the time, but she's that rare case that if she really did put in the work and build her character up, I think it's an easy transition to see her be next in line when she's ready. So she could lose the title, and if she does, I think it means that she's going to get pushed up to bigger and better things. And if she doesn't lose, I think they'll give it a little bit more stretch, and they're just looking for the right person to beat her, right? Just like WWE right now, they're looking for the right people to beat the for the titles, right? So. It makes sense.
And yeah, I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing how the ROH Championship. I'm enjoying seeing.
Four-way title.
Which is Guevara's in that match, which I think is really interesting. I wonder if that's just sort of like a red herring or
well,
like.
you have two Jericho Appreciation Society, and you have Bryan Danielson, right? And you have Claudio Castagnoli. So you have two talents from a dysfunctional group. Clearly, they're dysfunctioning over the last few years or from a few weeks, and then you have a strong group in the JAS. And the curiosity here is like, does Guevara does he back up Chris Jericho? Does he back him up and they work together, or does he turn on him, or does Jericho turn on Guevara, and that's the start of the JAS kind of breaking up? I don't know. I would say more so the dysfunction between Danielson and Claudio. I think it's going to cost them. To be honest. I wouldn't mind seeing Jericho will retain, or I honestly wouldn't mind seeing Guevara win. But if Guevara wins, then Jericho's going to be mad, right? He doesn't want to lose his title. So I say Jericho probably retains.
Me too, and I'm also looking forward to the steel cage match, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I think it's going to be a really cool match, and it's one of those those classic like big guy versus small guy. So it's going to be really. I've seen Jungle Boy wrestle too. He's really good.
They're both good. They're both good. I think they're both talented, and Christian Cage will be at ringside for that one for Luchasaurus.
Yeah, I'm enjoying Christian Cage as a mouthpiece too. He's very good.
Christian Cage has always had so much talent. And he's always been overlooked a little bit when he was in WWE. He finally got his chance with TNA and Impact Wrestling and did a fantastic job. Came to WWE, had a couple opportunities. He was World Heavyweight Champion in WWE, but he still never got the credibility with Vince. I don't think he ever did. And now he's in AEW, and he's getting that time to show what he can do. And he is a villain, man. Like he is a villain. He is a good heel.
Between him and Jungle Boy are fantastic. Oh my god, it was some of the best. I mean, you can't do some of the stuff you can do on WWE, obviously because of the rating, but like it was some incredible heel work.
I gotta say, it's too bad Christian Cage and AEW, like this whole AEW thing, wasn't around when Christian was in his prime, because he's not as agile as he once was, right? And when he was in his prime, if he could be doing what he's doing with his company, I think it would be amazing. But he did his dues, and I really think he was one of the big faces of Impact Wrestling when it was at its prime, to be honest. So.
No, absolutely. So it's if they stay at 8, right? Like don't go too crazy, right?
Don't put any more than this Wardlow Joe match, please. If you're gonna do anything more.
Well, you'd think they're gonna have the trios titles, right? Like,
but who are you gonna throw the trios titles in? I mean, I really don't want to see the Elite come back and take those trios titles. Like
they're supposed to be back. Maybe they will, which I think would send a terrible message, don't you? Because
that's what I was gonna say.
They got disciplined, right? So you'd think if they come back and fight, it's the Dark Order that has it now, right? Like if they do and they win, like
that's what I mean.
That would make me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Even just the fact that they come back and they get an instant title shot just feels a little uncomfortable too. You're feeling like it's a reward for, you should never come back like that after a disciplinary action, and you're like, all right, you get a title shot. I don't know, right? And you win. Even if it's not a win, it's still questionable in my opinion. So.
For sure. So definitely looking forward to seeing what that card is going to bring. We're all looking forward to hearing what you folks think too, and what you folks think is going to happen at Full Gear. But we'll switch over to WWE now. In the past week of WWE, I think when you have shows after a pay-per-view, usually you feel like it's exciting, right? Because it's the fallout of such and such a pay. And I really just feel like this week fell flat, right?
Very.
I mean, Raw had its controversial moments, right? And we can dive into that. But yeah. I think where we saw it most was SmackDown, right? It's been such an exciting show. I've like every single week I've been okay. Well, minus the tag match. Tag match was fantastic.
Yeah.
And anyway, but like for overall, like pretty much SmackDown's been really exciting. This week it didn't feel like that. It felt like
Didn't.
really tired. Like it was like we just spent 5 days in Saudi Arabia and we're all tired.
It felt like filler. The whole show almost felt like filler. One of the big consensus right now in the wrestling community is WWE is really struggling with after pay-per-view shows. What they're doing is just they're putting too much filler of let me show you what happened at Crown Jewel, and they just spend so much time showing what happened when the majority of fans have already watched. They saw it on social media, they know, they looked on YouTube, but they're showing so much time of like what happened, and I know you're supposed to show some, but it's just taking up too much time. It's too much filler, and then you have a show that's very mediocre. And on so many levels where you wouldn't expect it to be mediocre too. Like Monday's show, let's start with Raw. Monday's show it started out a little slow.
It was more tired than SmackDown.
It was more tired than SmackDown, and it finished with a pop for sure. It finished with a very big moment, but I mean, a very controversial moment at the same time. They played a little bit of that in the middle of the card, a little War Games not tease, confirmation, but, little War Games in there, a little bit of the, what we saw at Crown and the two tags against each other and a little bickering there. We saw a little tease from Bray and Alexa again, and it just felt like it was a little flat through most of the show, honestly. And then we get to a point where Seth comes out and opens his challenge. And
second time.
The first time I'm talking about. The first time he comes out.
Okay, yeah.
He comes out the first time, and then we hear Finn Balor's music hit. And my heart was pumping. I was like, Finn Balor's going to get an opportunity? Like, this is what we need. We want to see Judgment Day take a title. Like, this is going to be great. And then Finn Balor comes out, and then AJ Styles comes out. And I'm like, oh, is this going to be a triple threat? Like, is this going to be a triple threat match? This would be fantastic. Because Rollins is going to come out. If they had a triple threat match there, Rollins is going to come out because they're gonna get involved and Rollins is going to take the easy win. But he just kind of backs off and walks out of the ring, and I thought it was kind of just like,
which is kind of funny,
sad.
Actually.
It's kind of sad. It's good, and it built up a little bit more with those two teams again and what's going on, and it looks like we may see them get involved with each other again.
My EM was the debut, which was cool.
Yeah. So we'll finally get to see Rhea in action at a pay-per-view, which is going to be good.
Well, yeah, my hope is actually we see a MIM versus Rhea match either in like this week's Raw or next week's
Raw.
Just because so we can really because how they built up to Crown Jewel, you had the OC and then go back and forth, right? So I'm hoping we do get to see a MIM and Rhea match. I'm thinking probably next week.
Probably next. Like, you're talking tomorrow, or you're talking the week after tomorrow.
The go home show. Yeah, I'm thinking it'll probably be more so on the go home show, so you can get excited for War Games.
Absolutely, I agree. That's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be some rust for Rhea, right? To take off some of the rust for Rhea.
And Maya too, right?
And Maya too. What I loved seeing, and my highlight of that show on Raw was we saw for the first time for a very long time Rhea and Bianca had a quick but very entertaining standoff. We know that's still in the bucket. It never happened. There was injuries there. Yep. It was never resolved. She's still, in my books, she still earned that number one contendership, and she's still in line for that title. Maybe she's the first one to bring a title into the Judgment Day. I don't know if she breaks apart first from them, but I just feel with what they're doing right now, and you have this first time where we have a faction where the female is the de facto leader of the group. Like, I know technically Finn's supposed to be in everything, but I think even the commentators agree Rhea's really the one leading that group. And there's a very good dynamic between her and Finn. But, can you imagine, that she brings in a title to that group and then maybe one of the men get a mid-card title? I think Judgment Day is improving, and I think they can actually move in the right direction. A win over the OC here, if they do beat the OC at War Games, and this could go either way, but if they do, it really shows the strength of Judgment Day and where they could go next, right? Because OC's bringing in someone else. Picture. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't even mind that. I wouldn't even mind that Rhea holds a title and the two of the men in the group hold tag titles. I wouldn't mind that. Another like Evolution style group, kind of like that. But it's great. It's great entertainment. I think that Judgment Day, they put a lot of time and effort into this group. They got to go somewhere. They got to do something with them. Not break them up. The OC, AJ can be on his own. Those guys can be tag teams on their own. They don't really need each other, but it is a fun time. We always like seeing them get together because they're long-term friends. But yeah, I want to see something. I want to see something happen there. And we'll get some time to see Mai actually shine, because before she was in, I don't know if you ever ended up looking it up, but when she was part of that Retribution group where Mustafa Ali led it, the most the worst one of, let's just say, one of Vince's big flops. It was awful. Really, really bad. Anyways, moving on to the rest of the card there. You know, there was some filler stuff, and then we get to the part where he comes out for the second time, and he throws that.
But just before you get to there, I think a big piece of news before that one was the match right before it, which was Nikki Cross joining Damage Control, basically, and of course them announcing everything that everyone knew which was Bianca's faction versus Damage Control at War Games, right? With now Nikki Cross joining, so there's obviously now some debate to fill out who's going to be number 4 and 5 for Bianca's group and who's going to be number 5 for Damage Control. But that's a whole other thing.
I wonder if we see some returns there for that.
Well, you got to think Candice LeRae joins the face group.
For sure.
But who is that fifth?
How's that question. Fifth, yeah.
Is Sasha Banks? We'll see. And then for the heel group, who knows, right? Like I've seen
Sasha Banks could even go on the heel group. She plays a really good heel too.
You wonder if, because you keep seeing these hints that it's Sasha coming back, right? I haven't seen a lot about Naomi, but I wonder if it's just, you know, if you hear about Sasha, you just can assume Naomi's coming back too. Who knows? And I also even wonder if Sasha's coming back, because it sounds like she's having a good time outside of wrestling.
It certainly does.
But there's the whole War Games piece. Yep. And then, of course, Nikki Cross has an actual match for the 24/7 championship with Dana Brooke, and she wins. And then subsequently tries to put the match thing in a garbage can, but misses. Anyways, basically saying the 24/7 championship, which everyone knew was going to come to an end, is officially ending. It's off the website now. So I think it's a real exciting piece of news for the WWE Universe. I think everyone kind of grew tired of that championship.
Well, I mean, with R-Truth off the roster now because of an injury,
too.
You can't really have the most exciting part of the 24/7 championship was R-Truth and his 36 times of holding the title. He's the most winningest talent on WWE roster ever, because he's won a title 36 times. But it is the 24/7 championship. But it was what made it, and he's gone, and a lot of the others seem to be not on TV anymore. So why not throw it out?
Dana Brooke had it, but then wasn't really on TV. Last time she was
only been on main event.
And she would do she was in the tag team tournament before the tag.
That's right.
Before was it Clash? Yeah, it was Clash. So people are what they're going to do with that. Our hope is obviously that it turns into a women's mid card, because that's actually what they really need. AEW can have a women's mid card. Why the heck can't WWE has it, right? That's because they're bringing back so many women. Like, right? Like if you
and we still have more to come.
Like, for example, if you want to make Ronda Rousey look so strong and make Shayna Baszler look so strong, put both belts on them, right? Just as an example, right? Or you give Rhea Ripley the mid card belt if you're not going to take it off Bianca Belair, right? So I thought that was really interesting. Actually, you've seen it, the history of this belt. So what are your thoughts on the 24/7 championship no longer?
I don't mind. It was a fun while it lasted. It was very much like the hardcore title being kind of defended 24/7. And, Mick Foley was the one to bring it into the WWE when he was general manager of Raw. So, I mean, it was really fun while it lasted, but it was getting a little bland. And they don't have the talent that fits that group right now. They have a couple people, but, I mean, Tozawa and R-Truth are still here. But now with R-Truth gone, like, he's the one that really made that group. And without him, I mean, it's not going to be as exciting, to be honest. So let it go. Let's see one title off the roster leads to another title substitution going on the roster. Um, I would love to see a women's mid card title, like an intercontinental title, U.S. title of a women's division. They could even have two, one on each show. There's nothing wrong with that. But let's start with one. Let's start with one and get there and see where we go. Yeah, so I mean, it's good to see that title's getting retired and they'll go in a different direction, and maybe this is something to show where maybe they do give Nikki Cross a push. Maybe she does end up getting a push in the right direction. You know, she was all right when she was Nikki Cross the first time. She won the tag titles with Alexa. Her Nikki ASH gimmick kind of was funny at first. She won a Raw Women's title with a cash-in. Didn't hold on to it very long, and then as we've seen over the last few years, this has fell off, and she's now gone psychotic again, and that's where
You wonder if she'll go psychotic in War Games and just attack everyone.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think she might I think she might even cost Damage Control just because she doesn't know. Like, she's half the time she's like not. She's looking into space like she doesn't know where she is. So it would be funny. It would be funny. But I think I'm really curious just to see who is going to be those fillers for the rest of the team. I think we'll find out number 4 tomorrow. I think we'll for Bianca's team. I do think it's going to be Candice LeRae.
Makes the most sense because she has history of Damage Control.
I think number 5 for both teams, we may not find out until Survivor Series, and it's going to be 2 returns.
Oh, so you have them as the unknown, like you do at Raw Rumble, and they did that back in NXT. They did it with KO. I think that's what they'll do with the men's side, and we can talk about the men's side. That's what
we'll see, and I think it could lead to maybe seeing Sasha Banks back, maybe, but I think that it also may mean we see Charlotte back. It could be a good fit for her to come
right?
Back. Sorry?
It's in Boston, right?
It is, yes.
Sasha Banks is right.
And she's from Boston, so yeah. I mean, very well could be Sasha Banks. I don't know if you've seen her on social media recently, but she has a whole new look. She doesn't look anything like she did. She's back to like natural hair color, and she's just different. She just has a different aura to her. I think she's done with the BS in WWE, and I think she's going to come back with a little bit of a different character, and I think she will have a bit of a repackage, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But she'll come back. I think she'll be back at some point, whether it is at War Games or it is in 2023. But I think there is also room for Charlotte to come back too as a really surprise, because I don't think anybody sees it coming, and I think that's not always a bad thing. You know,
on the heel side.
Yeah, or maybe maybe the face side. We'll see. We'll to see how it plays out for Sasha. But I mean, I'm always in for a big surprise, like when Cody returned at WrestleMania. No, some people saw it coming, but nobody was sure about it, and it was like we didn't find out who Seth's opponent was until WrestleMania. So, having a Charlotte return in that kind of manner would be a cool way to do it. I can't see any other women from the division returning. I don't think so. Not in a manner like that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to finding out more
as well. But it just seems like they keep talking about if it's when Sasha comes back, Naomi is naturally back too. So that's a really interesting one. Like maybe I don't know if Sasha will come back but not Naomi. I don't know, right? Like if it's not Candice LeRae, like maybe it is Sasha and Naomi,
right?
Because they were faces when they left, right? But like you said, if Sasha is having this sort of repackage and rebrand, maybe she comes back as a heel.
And she's played a good heel in the past. I don't see why they couldn't do it again.
And maybe Naomi is a face. Maybe they split up.
Yeah.
It should be a cool little like a match at Royal Rumble. Hey, like Sasha versus Naomi. That'd be kind of cool. But anyways, of course, the biggest talking point, as I cut you off as you were getting to it, the biggest talking point from Raw on Monday that sort of waves through the professional wrestling world is Austin Theory finally cashes in his Money in the Bank contract in an open challenge for the U.S. title. And subsequently fails the cash-in and loses with some interference by Bobby Lashley. And it's caused quite a stir in the professional wrestling world. Folks from every single analyst and whoever covers professional wrestling in general has had a discussion about this. And there seems to be not two clubs, but there seems to be two running theories out there. Is one, as you've mentioned to me, that he actually will get it back. because he cashed in an open challenge, and the open challenge subverts the cash in, or it's storyline of Theory having the Money in the Bank briefcase was so problematic because you have it on a guy like Roman, who they have no plans for him to drop the belts anytime. It's rough, but like not to a guy like Theory, right? So, you have it, as crappy as this is for him, you have him just get that briefcase off of him so you can sort of move Theory in the direction you want to, because as long as he has that briefcase, he's going to be attached to Roman, right? And Roman ain't losing any of those belts anytime soon, right? So your thoughts on the surprise cash in of Austin Theory?
Okay, let me get into it. I'm very emotional here. In the past, you and I have both not really liked Theory that much. But I do feel for the guy, and I have gotten to a point where I can a little bit more than tolerate him, and I think he's doing pretty good work in the ring. And I think he deserved better than this mess.
I think everyone agrees with that, regardless if they like Theory or
regardless if they like him or not. He deserved better than this. And they had potential to do better than this. But I want to start by saying this. Seth opened the challenge, and Mustafa Ali comes out. And I honestly thought it might have been a Mustafa Ali, because they've been pushing this for a long time. So I'm like, oh, maybe he'll get the match, and maybe he'll win, maybe he'll not. And Bobby Lashley pops up on screen. Takes out Mustafa Ali.
Chucks him.
Like he's a piece of cheese. And then Bobby Lashley says, I'm going to take on the challenge. I'm coming out to the ring. And then Mustafa Ali jumps him from behind and attacks him, and it barely phases Mustafa Ali Bobby Lashley that he grabs him and chucks him behind, like off camera, so hard that he ended up on Friday Night SmackDown.
Actually, funny enough, quick aside, Rey Mysterio's injured.
Oh.
They replaced him with Mustafa Ali, which actually I think is a good, because now we're getting a Ricochet versus Mustafa Ali. It's going to be a really good match. Anyways, continue.
Interesting. But he did get thrown so hard, now he's on Friday Night SmackDown.
Yes.
Which is good, because I think he'll fit in with the group there and the talent there. Then we see Bobby Lashley come out. Very interesting. He comes out. I thought he was going to beat Seth up, and I was like, oh, this is going to be a squash match. Like, Seth's going to lose the title, which I wouldn't have minded. Bobby Lashley was a great U.S. title holder. I wouldn't have minded that, because then we can take Seth and move him in the direction we want to go. He can be going after Roman. Right now, when he has that title, he's not going after Roman. I don't think so. Because he has to hold that title on that show. Now, Bobby Lashley just pummels him. Just like a rag doll. And I think it was really good for Lashley's character, because you get to see like how tough, how strong, and how like just
see him as a heel too.
Yes, after he just got a loss from Brock Lesnar, which was controversial as well at Crown, but it didn't really mean much. So he beats up Seth, and then we see Theory kind of standing in the background, and I'm like, he's not gonna cash in on this, is he? It's the U.S. title. He's not going to cash in on this. And I think this is the consensus from everyone. Why are you cashing in on a U.S. title? So he gets in. He goes. Lashley walks away after beating Seth. And Theory has that moment where that light bulb pops, and he's like, let's cash in. And he gives it to the ref. He cashes in. And I'm like, he's going to win the match, because Seth's a mess right now. And he had that match won. He was going to win that match. And I was like, oh, cool, okay. I've never seen a cash in on a U.S. title or a second tier title, but good for Theory. He's going to get something out of it. At least we have something out of the briefcase, and it's not a total waste. And the wrestling gods did not like that, and they decided, yes, we are going to have a total waste of the briefcase. Lashley pulls him out of the ring, pummels him, and he gets almost counted out. Rolls into the ring and gets a curb stomp, and Seth wins the match. Horrible finish, horrible booking. I really just didn't like the idea. The booking itself was like, you have so many things wrong with that. Why you're getting rid of the cash in? Why are you cashing in on a second tier belt? And why are you having lose the cash in? 3 bad bookings in one whole scenario, and then you don't even put the title on Lashley. So what are you doing with this situation? So then I think to myself, man, that was an utter failure, and it ended Raw, and I was really disappointed. And I had to sit on it for a few days. And I recently read that, yeah, like you said, there may be the possibility that Theory gets it back, and if he does, it's because of the open challenge actually kind of interfering and subseding the actual cash in. And if that's the case, I don't mind that idea, and I'll tell you why. The reason why I'm so upset is not necessarily because Theory lost that cash in. It's fine because he gets thrown into that John Cena mix of missed cash ins.
Mania.
I don't
And
mind that.
WrestleMania too.
Exactly. And I don't mind that. What I do mind is that cash in, that briefcase, that contract is significant in the WWE. It is important, and it can give a guy like Drew, it can give a guy like Lashley, it can give a guy like Rollins, and so many others an opportunity, Kevin Owens, to get up there and challenge Roman again. But they threw it out in the trash, just like they did with the 24/7 title.
24/7. Yep.
And it was disappointing because it was like, you know what? Like, I don't really see Bobby Lashley getting a chance with Roman right now. I don't see Seth getting a chance with Roman right now, right? Right now, not right now. But if you throw that Money in the Bank and Theory loses that Money in the Bank as it were a championship match, and he loses that briefcase to somebody, you're giving a chance for someone who's a veteran, who has experience, and who knows when to cash in at the right time, and Roman will be pulled at least one title off of him. You can cash in. The stipulation of the contract is, in fact, to cash in for the world title of your choosing. So you could have had Bobby Lashley get it, take it, cash in on Roman after War Games. Theory cash in on Roman after War Games, should he have kept it, or Rollins or Owens or whatever the case, and you would have had one of those titles before 2023 go back to Raw.
I think that was a moment where they were setting trajectories for all three men, right? You have Rollins, I think you get the face turn, right? You have Theory. For me, I don't think he's getting it back. I think Theory, it's okay. He's finally gotten this anchor of a contract off of him. You can sort of rebrand him, turn him face, or whatever. You now have some more freedom with him. I think for Lashley, which this is my hope, is that because you saw Cedric Alexander and Sheldon Benjamin on the TV for the first time since I've been watching, and I've been watching since April, I think you're teasing the Hurt Business coming back, right? Because they were heels, if I remember. Yeah, right? So I think, which is exciting, because now you get another faction. My hope is that faction faces off against Imperium, which would be awesome, but I don't know if they'll do that. So I think through the mud, I think depending on how Raw goes this week, like, I think it could really help, right? It could provide. It's like, again, how you and I discussed the frustrations of Roman winning at Clash, but like, okay, well, what are they going to do with that, right? If they do this correctly, right? If the Hurt Business comes back, if Rollins turns face again, right? That'll be, and they repackage Theory in the proper way, because you and I discussed that Theory is too good to go back down to NXT.
Yeah, and if you do have him go after the cash in with Braun Breaker, then you got to keep him on NXT. So that is one thing, because I know there was a lot of argument. Why didn't you just have him go and cash in against Braun Breaker? Because at least they could use the Money in the Bank contract. But I agree.
Absolutely,
I agree. He can't be on NXT.
So we'll move off that. I do quickly want to touch on SmackDown, just because there were some significant things on there, right? The one thing is you have Shotzi versus Ronda. That, obviously everyone knows Ronda's going to win that one. Poor Shotzi. I think the most significant thing is we will have on Monday. Monday is the record. We will have the new longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history, with a banger of a match on Friday. So congratulations to the Usos. Like, it sucks for the New Day.
I'm a bit disappointed.
It does, but you know what? Like, if you look at Legacy, right? Like, they're twins, right? Like, they're a very dominant faction.
They still haven't held the title as much as the New Day either. I think the New Day had title reigns and length as two records.
Also, okay, so they're gonna have they're gonna beat the length. They're gonna
pass the length, yeah.
Yeah, four. They were 481 on Friday. They're gonna as
Monday
so
will be
Monday.
483 or
So and then
44.
Tuesday they'll pass it, right? So congrats to the Usos, and I think it was a good match, and I think it's a deserving team. I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say the Usos don't deserve that record, like dominant, like and with the bloodline and things like that, the Anawahi, I think I'm screwing that up, family, right? Like it's
Anai,
just,
yeah. I
thank
think
you.
so, something like that.
Thank you. It's just another like with Roman and stuff. It just adds to that legacy, right? And I think it's easier now for the Usos to lose the titles now that they've broken that record.
Right.
Just to really start to bring the bloodline down, right? So there was that piece, and then of course we had the ending of SmackDown, where you were this close to Roman acknowledging the Usos, and then it was interrupted by the Brawling Brutes with a terrible mic. Then of course you had Drew McIntyre come in as well. So you have, you know, you're pretty much your semblance of what the men's War Games is going to look like, right? Sami Zayn wasn't there for personal reasons. Hope Sami's okay. I thought it was key. I thought it was not true at first, but it actually seems like there might be something going on. And then so you've got the Bloodline, which have five. Then you have obviously the Brawling Brutes and Drew McIntyre. So you're missing a fifth person. So that's going to be really interesting. I'm sure they're going to confirm it on Friday. Roman's going to be there on Friday. So that'll be really interesting. So, anyways, those two moments, like, wait, what did you think about on Friday on SmackDown?
Well, I thought it was an interesting thing because like you rolled through SmackDown with Roman coming out of the special announcement or the special moment, and I mean there was a few things that ran through my head. Like, could it be something against Jay? Could it be something? Maybe Sammy is there, and then they end up calling him out and booting him out of the Bloodline. But it wouldn't have made sense for War Games. There were just so many things that I wasn't sure. Like, so they kept you on your toes with that, which is good. And then, I think the Brawling Brutes coming out and saying, like, we're sick of the Bloodline. We're tired of the Bloodline. Like, this is the fans' perspective, man. This wall behind them was, like, the whole fans of, like, we're sick of the Bloodline. We're coming for you. And like, then Sheamus comes out. And despite the mic malfunction, I mean, it was good to see Sheamus be part of that. I think, Sheamus can get under Roman's skin. I think that's a way. We've seen that in the past. He's beat Roman in the past. I think we can say that he's a really good addition to this team and against the Bloodline. Drew and Sheamus, despite their issues in the past, they can work together well, and they can work together very well. I'm just really curious, honestly, to see who this fifth competitor is. I know there's a lot of speculation that it's going to be KO, but in these situations,
it could be Rhodes.
In these situations, we never know, right? It could be a special competitor. And what a way if it was Rhodes. What a way to come in as everyone thinks it's KO, they're all in the ring and they say, "Oh, our fifth competitor," and then Rhodes music hits. And then he gets two surprise returns in a year. It would be a good sense of we get to see some action between Rhodes and Roman to lead into next year. I honestly have to say I think if Rock falls through, if he falls through and he doesn't get to face off against Roman at WrestleMania 39, I think Cody takes the titles off him on WrestleMania 39. I don't see it being anyone else.
You'd think so, but I honestly I actually want it to be KO because I just really want to see that Sammy and KO dynamic, right? Because you can see that he's struggling with that, and it could just be that because what you really enjoyed about the Bloodline so far, and why I think what was lacking so much was Sammy not being there. I mean, it was nice to see. I think there was some genuine happiness for the Usos, right? Like outside of their characters, right? Like some cementing for the family, right? I think Roman, when they hugged backstage before they had the promo later on, there was some they weren't really acting there. I think
there was some emotion back there. Yeah.
And it was a great moment for them, right? It's they've worked so hard together for years, right? Especially these past 2 years, they've worked so closely together. Now you've had that, so now we can really move on to really get getting this going with Sami Zayn and KO, right? Because like there wouldn't be a greater moment than like KO showing up and because Sammy's kind of avoiding, right? Like because he had that match, KO had that match against Jay, and you could tell he didn't want to hit KO with the chair.
Yeah,
Like
that's right.
now they're going to be in a cage together. He can't avoid it. You know him, master strategist, right? But he's literally in a cage with him.
Is it a sealed top cage? Like, is it like Hell in a Cell?
So it's funny you asked that question. That one they don't know yet because
can you win by getting out of the cage? No.
It's either by to my knowledge, how you win actually is you don't is one person out of so if it's 5-on-5, person gets pinned, submitted, or surrenders. It's not an elimination thing. It's like, you know, if everyone's lied down, someone gets an arm on Roman and he pins him 1, 2, 3. That's it.
A little different than what we saw at Blood and Guts, where it's like the first person who taps or submits or gets pinned, I think, loses the match, regardless of
So I think it's similar. Now, the question of an open cage versus a closed cage, I was listening to Wrestle Talk podcast, and they were talking about it's been reported by Dave Meltzer that they want War Games to be sensational because they don't have any clips outside of NXT for it, and they want to use War Games is going to be a stable. So the question is, will they actually have an open cage, because then you can get better camera angles for spots, right? Whereas, like they say, Triple H traditionally likes a closed cage, right?
Yeah.
Vince liked an open cage. So it's actually, people aren't really sure what that's going to look like, and they haven't confirmed whether it's going to be open or closed, right?
I'd like to see a closed cage personally, just because I think there's always something cool, or there's always something fun about seeing them get on top of the cage and fight. I think there's always just something about that.
You think, like, I mean, you remember Sammy Guevara getting tossed off the top of that, right?
I want to see Sami Zayn get tossed off by Kevin Owens.
Yeah, see, but that's the thing. Like what's been great about the Bloodline story is the layers to it, right? So if KO gets in that ring, like there's so many like layers to that, right? Because it's KO versus the Bloodline, then it's Sami Zayn versus KO, right? And then and KO doesn't really want to fight Sami. Sami doesn't really want to fight KO, but if he's the honorary Uso, if he's Sami Uso, he's not gonna have a choice. And you know Roman's gonna make him fight him, right? Roman's gonna be like, okay, go prove yourself now, right? Like, you're one of us. And same thing with Jay, right? Jay is probably going to be all over him, right? So you think with KO being there, that's probably going to be enough of a distraction where someone's going to get a pin on the Bloodline and they're going to lose, right? And thus you begin the crumble of the Bloodline, and which it's going to be interesting because I believe Roman's booked for any of December. So you're just going to have the Bloodline.
So what do you do from a fan's perspective if the Bloodline walks out of this victorious yet again?
Cost. That's what I want to see. It's what you and I have been calling for these past few weeks is, okay, fine, win, but it needs to become at some sort of cost. Maybe
Sami doesn't turn on KO, and that's why they lose the match at some point, and then Sami gets kicked out, or Jay, or something like that.
Maybe it's like KO's vulnerable and Sami's the closest to him, but like you can see the hesitation. Whatever, Jimmy pins him, right?
Or like Roman spears him or something like that instead.
Says Sami pin him, right? Or something like that. And then somebody else, like, he can't do it. Then it shows, like, that's what I want. We just need to start seeing the cost, right? Because before Crown Jewel, that's what we were seeing. We were seeing the cost of the Bloodline. We were seeing the cracks in the Bloodline. We were seeing Jay saying, I don't give a damn what the Tribal Chief says, right? That's amazing TV. That's professional wrestling, right? And we've been missing that these past few weeks because of Sami not being there. A few weeks last week, because that was the week after Crown Jewel.
I feel that if they don't do that, if the Bloodline just comes out completely victorious and smashes that group, and Sami's fine, Jay's fine, Roman's fine, everything's fine, and they just move on to the next thing, I think it's gonna leave a lot of question marks for fans. Like, where do you go next? What do you do next then?
You gotta think it won't be like that, because they've acknowledged that basically, like, this Bloodline story has gone on a lot longer than they thought. Yeah. Right? This was supposed to be a few week thing, and then KO was supposed to come in and save Sami. obviously they've stopped that. I mean, they freaking trademarked Usi now. It's gotten so big. And feeling Usi, like that's how big it's gotten, right? But like with that knowledge, like it doesn't make sense to me for them to not do anything of significance when it comes to that storyline, because it can't drag on forever, right? Especially because Roman's gone all of December, right? Then you've got Rumble, then you've got Elimination Chamber, right? And I think that's a big piece too that I think you can keep in mind is Elimination Chamber's in Montreal. So you got to have KO and Sammy in that match. What does that look like, right? Like the WWE is talking a lot about focusing on the long term. So War Games probably has to have some sort of cost to the Bloodline, whether they lose outright or if they win, but it comes at a cost.
I mean, I would even like to see like them lose because Sammy turns on them. Like this whole thing has been a plot, like Sammy to get Kevin and him.
Someone said that before.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting. I would love to see Sammy be. I know I've heard this a few times over this weekend. Like, I think there's a lot of with how hot Sammy is right now and how much crowd backing he has. Like, I think there's a lot of interest of like, let's see Sammy be the one to pull the titles off of Roman, because it would be totally unexpected. Even if it's one, yeah, like it would be totally unexpected.
Ladder match at Red Rumble and have Sammy pull off the Raw title, right? Because you obviously you're like regardless, Roman's keeping that Universal title till Mania because he's close. He's 200 days away from 1,000 days as a Universal Champion. They're gonna want to have him break that record, right? And I don't think The Rock's pulling the belts off of him. But anyways, that's a whole other debate. So I think Wargate, like this next week for Raw, I think WWE is going to be fascinating. And then of course we have the fun of Full Gear happening also. So Dynamite's going to be cool. Rampage will be really fun too. The go home shows are always really good for both brands. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting week for wrestling. So it there. So thanks everyone for listening. Please hit subscribe on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment. What are your thoughts on what's going to happen at Full Gear? What are your thoughts on what's going to happen this week in WWE? What are your thoughts on War Games? We want to hear from you. Like, what are your thoughts? Also, so have a listen on our audio side, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Subscribe there. Leave a review there. But as I always say, my beautifully bearded friend, thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody. And we'll catch you at the next one.